Sponsored by Bangkok Bank, the Sukhothai Residences, SIPA New Decade Innovation, and Magnolia's Ratcharamri Boulevard.
Good morning, ASEAN. Freshen up your world, your thought, and your idea with us every weekday from 7:30 to 8 a.m. I'm Patsurang Desha Putharangsi.
And I'm also here with you, Nirasha Malisaklami, and today is Tuesday, September 17, 2013. Let's start with the first news.
Yes, as Cambodia's long-serving Prime Minister Hun Sen and longtime opposition leader Sam Rainsy yesterday agreed to avoid further clashes between the police and protesters after a clash at Sunday night. Prak Sokhon, minister attached to the PM, told reporters after a 5-hour meeting between the two political leaders at the National Assembly that both sides agreed to comply with the King's royal message dated September 16th. Of course, King Norodom Sihamuni said that in the royal message that he would like to beg all compatriots who are the protesters and the authorities to stop using violence in all images, such as stone throwing or weapon using that cause injuries or deaths to people and create serious danger to the whole nation. He urged people to return to the tradition of non-violence and exercise their utmost restraints to avoid national instability. The King's royal message came after a clash between police and opposition party protesters Sunday night at a flyover in the southern part of the city, leaving 1 man shot dead and 3 wounded. Prak Sokhon said the two leaders also agreed to create a mechanism to reform the National Election Committee and would continue meetings at all levels to resolve national issues. Two clashes between police and protesters broke out on Sunday during a mass protest led by Sam Rainsy, president of the opposition Cambodia National Rescue Party, against the July 28th election. In the clashes, the police had fired tear gas and water cannons to disperse the protesters. The final results showed that the ruling Cambodian People's Party, Hun Sen, got victory with 68 parliamentary seats, and the CNRP of Rainsy received the remaining 55 seats. The CNRP did not recognize the outcomes, of course, claiming that its party should win 63 seats, with the CPP getting 60 if alleged irregularities during the poll were fairly investigated. Of course, yesterday, a few thousands of opposition protesters are still rallying at the capital's Freedom Park, even though the city hall did not give permission. Prime Minister Hun Sen has said that his party has enough lawmakers to override any opposition parliamentary boycott and form a new government.
Now let's have a look at the Philippines, as Philippine security forces yesterday stepped up efforts to secure locations being held by rogue Muslim rebels from a southern city as part of efforts to end more than a week of clashes that have killed scores of many people. According to an army spokesman, said that violence erupted in the early hours of Monday morning as soldiers traded mortar and machine gun fire with the rebels, who are from a breakaway factions of the Moro National Liberation Front, or MNLF, while 2 helicopters gunships fired rockets at their positions. A powerful explosion that damaged a parked car at a downtown suburb was later reported. However, nobody was injured. Interior Secretary Manuel Roxas told reporters that they wanted to resolve the standoff, which has been going on for 8 days. He said that the armed forces and police are intensifying their operations until now in order to constrict and contain the rebels to a limited area. The fighting has been a stark reminder that decades-old grievances fester in the Catholic-majority country despite strong economic growth and an agreement with the biggest Muslim rebels group that was meant to pave the way to peace. The army said that at least 62 people have been killed, including 51 of the independence-seeking rebels and 5 civilians. The fighting is now in its 8th day, has been largely in 3 coastal districts of Zamboanga City on the southern island of Mindanao, and about 70,000 residents have been displaced. The violence has paralyzed the port, shutting banks, schools, businesses, and grounding flights. Philippine National Police Deputy Director for Operations Felipe Rojas said that security forces had made significant advances and were gaining the upper hand against rebels.
Simultaneously, in Cambodia, in Philippines, as well as in Thailand, violence has undermined political as well as economic instability. Let's see what's going on in Thailand. More than 10 vehicles were smashed and set ablaze, and people injured when clashes broke out between hundreds of rubber growers and security officials at the Khön Nong Hong intersection in Nakhon Si Thammarat, Chawats district. The officials used tear gas to disperse the crowd, while protesters used what they could find, stones or sticks, to hit back. Deputy PM Kittirat Naranong said the government had put measures in place to help rubber growers and was not planning to offer anything else. While calling on the protesters to not do anything that affects other people's rights, he said the government would explain the measures. Initially, most rubber growers found the cabinet approved 2,520 baht subsidy per rai per household deal acceptable, but some demanded the price for rubber be set at 120 baht per kilogram and the subsidy be paid to individual farmers with or without title deeds. Hence, they organized a roadblock at Khön Nong Hong again. Early yesterday, police managed to take charge of a site and reopen Highway 41, but protesters began gathering again at around noon, and youngsters started throwing rocks and firing slingshots at officials. That was when police opted for tear gas. As the clash continued and security officials were pushed back, protesters damaged and set fire to a detention truck and several other vehicles. It was reported that a Thai PBS van was also smashed and a reporter's camera seized by the protesters. A hair salon near the site was also damaged and riddled with bullets, while protester Somnam Ratchdog was shot in the leg. Chayanin Khongsong, one of the 11 protest leaders wanted by the authorities, was also reportedly arrested during the crackdown. Provincial Governor Virod Jiwarangsan said in the morning security officials went to investigate damage done to a police at the Khön Nong Hong intersection, and police then moved to reopen the road. Well, meanwhile, 10 Democrat MPs from Nakhon Si Thammarat issued a statement objecting the crackdown and expressed concern that the situation may get out of control. They urged the government to tell the police to avoid confrontation and employ peaceful means to control the situation.
Still stay in Thailand, as the Thai government yesterday insisted that it has secured a rice sale to China, with Thai officials in Beijing confirming the 1.2 million tons contract, which is part of Thailand's plan to export 4 million to 5 million tons of rice to that country this year. While Commerce Minister Niwatt Thamrong Bunsongpaisan flatly dismissed the Democrat Party's speculation that his ministry is faking the rice deal with China, Paibun Vibun Thanasan, the commercial attaché at the Thai embassy in Beijing, confirmed the deal with a Chinese state enterprise, saying that the price is close to about 15,000 baht per ton pledging price, but is lower than the $600. Under the Memorandum of Understanding signed recently, the rice would be transported to the city of Harbin in 3 shipments. Paijit said that in 2013, the government targeted to export 4 to 5 million tons of rice to China, where demand is high after floods and crop losses. The government has instructed all units to speed up the sale of rice and other products to China. Deals with major cities like Shanghai, Zhejiang, Hangzhou, and Shandong should be wrapped up soon. Niwatt Thamrong also came under attack from the Democrat MPs, who's referring to a report by Reuters that casts doubt on the existence of the deal. The minister revealed the deal on the September 8th after his return from China, and in an article by Reuters dated September 12th, industry sources were quoted as doubting that China would want that much rice. Paijit said that the sale is on top of the government-to-government deal for 1.2 million tons signed during Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawat's visit to Nanning, where she met Chinese Prime Minister Li Keqiang. The first shipments of 300,000 tons is scheduled before the end of this year. He said that this would help Thailand to reduce its rice stocks from over 10 million tons at present, which should push up global rice prices. And Niwatt Thamrong said that while in Harbin, he discussed the deal with BEIJING Group, which is a Chinese state enterprise, and in 2 weeks the contract will be signed either in Thailand or China. He said that Thailand would start delivering rice to Iran in October, and Iraq representatives will come to Thailand soon for talks. The deal has raised suspicions given the low volume of Thai rice export to China in the past few years. In 2009, Thailand shipped only 328,238 tons to China.
There are now many police stations at every petrol gas station. Let's see which country is it in this special report.
Victims of crime can now go to designated Petron petrol stations to seek help and lodge reports. The Campaign 1 Aman Go to Safety Points initiative, soon to be expanded to all 560 Petron stations and other petrol kiosks nationwide, will give people easier access to police when reporting a crime. Inspector General of Police Tan Sri Halik Abu Bakar says the petrol kiosks are equipped with facilities to alert the cops to come to the station to record the victim's statements and take down the report. The stations will also act as a converging point for police patrol units, making them one of the safest places to be.
Coming up next after the break, Vietnam and Japan has boosted their ties on defense ties.
Sponsored by Bangkok Bank, the Sukhothai Residences, SIPA New Decade Innovation, and Magnolia's Ratcharamri Boulevard.
Vietnamese Defense Minister Phuong Quang Thanh said yesterday that a visit of Japanese Defense Minister Itsunori Onodera to Vietnam is of great significance to boost the strategic partnership between the two nations, especially ties between the two defense ministries. Minister Phuong Quang Thanh made the remarks during talks with his Japanese counterpart in Vietnam's capital, Hanoi. But during the meeting, Thanh expressed his belief that the visit would be a milestone to mark a broader and more intensive level in the bilateral cooperation between the two defense ministries. The two ministers discussed defense policies in their respective country and cooperation directions in the future and other regional and international issues of mutual concern. The two sides pledged to actively instruct relevant agencies to fully and effectively implement the agreement signed, focusing on personal training and delegation exchange, as well as maintaining and promoting defense policy dialogue mechanism at deputy ministerial level and staff officer level. The Japanese minister, for his part, said defense cooperation between the two nations has been implemented synchronously, effectively and intensively in all fields based on the Memorandum of Understanding on Defense Cooperation signed by the two defense ministries back in 2011. On the occasion, the Vietnamese defense minister proposed Japan to provide equipment and technologies to help Vietnam deal with the post-war consequences, particularly delayed explosive ordinances and toxic chemicals. During his stay in Vietnam, Onodera planned to visit the Commando Officer School under the Commando Arm and Regional 4 Naval Command. Onodera's visit to Vietnam, the first in his position as Japanese defense minister, was made at the invitation of his Vietnamese counterpart, and at a time when the two countries are celebrating the 40th anniversary of diplomatic ties. The country is the first leg of his 5-day tour to Vietnam and Thailand, starting on Sunday to boost cooperation on maritime security.
And the UN nuclear watchdog will gain wider inspection powers in Myanmar under an agreement to be signed this week in a further sign of the formerly army-ruled Asian state opening up to the outside world. The Vienna-based IAEA say that Myanmar will sign the so-called additional protocol, which allows unannounced inspections outside of declared nuclear sites with the UN's International Atomic Energy Agency on Tuesday. The move will help to ease any lingering concern about Myanmar's nuclear ambitions. Myanmar has denied allegations made by an exile group 3 years ago that it was trying to develop nuclear weapons, and most experts say its technological expertise is still far short of that level. But in early 2011, diplomatic sources in Vienna say that the IAEA had written to Myanmar seeking information about its activities, suggesting that it wanted to send inspectors there. Western countries have lifted or suspended sanctions imposed during nearly half a century of repressive military rule in Myanmar, but human rights activists and ethnic minority groups remain wary about the government of President Thein Sein, which is a former general now heading a quasi-civilian government. In 2010, a UN report suggested that North Korea, which has left the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty or NPT and tested 3 nuclear devices, might have supplied Myanmar as well as Iran and Syria with bayonet atomic technology. A Norwegian-based exile group said the same year that Myanmar had a secret program to develop the means to make nuclear weapons. Myanmar is a member of both the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty and the IAEA. The IAEA said yesterday's statement that additional protocol equipped the agency with important additional measures that provide for broader access to information about the state's nuclear program, increased physical access by IAEA inspectors, and improved administrative arrangements. There are currently 121 states with such additional protocols in force.
Indonesian authorities raised the alert level of a volcano in Sumatra Island on Monday after its eruption forced how many residents to flee? Mount Sinabung erupted early on Sunday, spewing volcanic ash and small rocks onto villages near the foot of the volcano, Indonesia's Jakarta Globe reported. Well, it said one of the head Sinabung monitoring posts said that they urged residents to stay away and not conduct activities for a radius of 3 kilometers and also stay alert for a sudden eruption. The alert level for Sinabung was raised from 2 on 4-point scale to 3. A level 4 alert would necessitate a mandatory evacuation order. Well, almost 5,000 people, now I know the number, have been evacuated from largely farming areas to temporary evacuation centers. Well, local media said this is Sinabung's first eruption since 2010. Before that, its last eruption was in the year 1600. Well, Indonesia straddles the Pacific Ring of Fire with nearly 130 active volcanoes, more than any other country. Now it's time for the second episode of the Tibet series. Now let's see how a sacred Tibetan life revolves around the World Heritage Site, Potala Palace. Let's see. Undeniably, Tibetan people have for centuries lived one of the best healthy and peaceful lives in the world, not just because they're born and raised surrounded by pure nature, but they make their own choices to sustain a livelihood naturally. It is the holy way of Tibetan life. This is what downtown Tibetans, the majority of them are Buddhists of course, do every morning. It is the sacredness of a Tibetan livelihood that maintains the holy atmosphere around this majestic Potala Palace, aka Tibet World Heritage Site. Here I am at the Potala Palace in Tibetan Autonomous Region. Well, featuring with the Tibetan unique cultural style, the whole palace was built along the mountain ridge with a majestic appearance. The Potala Palace, winter palace of the Dalai Lama since the 7th century, symbolizes Tibetan Buddhism and its central role in the traditional administration of Tibet. The complex, comprising of the white and red palaces with their ancillary buildings, is built on Red Mountain in the center of Lhasa Valley, at an altitude of 3,700 meters above the sea level. The beauty and originality of the architecture of the Potala Palace, its rich ornamentation and harmonious integration in a striking landscape add to their historic and religious interest. Consequently, the overall exquisite historical mansion attracts millions of visitors each year, driving the autonomous region's economy forward. Economically speaking, there is sufficient amount of revenue for the whole region to sustain its people's livelihood without the sole support of the central government. But we are also talking about how to sustain the sacred life of the Tibetan people in the midst of consistent arrivals of visitors. If the Potala Palace, representing the whole sacred integration of Tibetan people, Buddhism, and history, it is worth every effort to maintain it that way.
这个我们是定期每天都要对这个建筑结构进行那个专门的有人在那个进行巡逻，然后查看一些险情，如果哪个地方有险情，就及时的加固维修，是这样的，不一定是固定一个时间在那加固，只要是这个发现险情的话，就及时就进行加固维修。博特拉宫的那个，它每年有专门的经费。 我们那个从收入里面解决一部分资金，就是里面发现了一些小的险情，小的一些那个建筑的隐患，这部分资金就是我们从自己的收入里面去进行加固维修。然后像一些比较大的投资规模非常大的那种维修，是直接由西藏人民政府报那个中央政府，然后中央政府拨专款进行维修。博特拉宫就是从和平解放以来，进行过2次那个大的维修，一次是从1989年到1994年，另外一次是从对，进行过2次，另外一次是2002年到2009年。那个第一期维修主要就是对白宫和红宫的那个建筑结构进行了加固。
The question of physical maintenance must answer a long-term prosperity of not just Tibetan ways of earning a living, but also of the sacredness of this holy region. Patsurang Desha Puttarangsi reports. That's it for today's edition of Good Morning ASEAN. We'll see you again, same time, same place, the same channel.
Thank you so much for watching. I am Nira Chamali Saklami.
And I'm Patsurang Desha Puttarangsi. สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะ